On today's show, my hair is looking crazy, but more importantly, the Padres dropped their first game at home this season, 2-1 to the Cubs, recapping what was otherwise a pretty great game from the Padres in terms of the pitching perspective, but also talking about some things going forward, whether or not Dylan Cease, it's panic time for him, and a whole bunch more. So let's get into it.
You are Locked On Padres, your daily San Diego Padres podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Locked On Padres podcast, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day for Wednesday, April 16th. As always, I'm your host with sometimes occasionally, but certainly not always the most, Javier Reyes. You can follow me on Twitter /X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, Javiiipeno. You can also check me out newly on TikTok at Javios, Javiios, for more short form dumb content that I do. I'm not going to advertise that one as much, but if you're curious, go ahead and check that out. And let me tell you guys, go and check out the good stuff over at Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Today's sponsor, we love you so much. Game Time, we love you. We love you very much. You're very good. We're just big fans over here on the Locked On Padres podcast. Today's episode, guys, we are recapping basically the last two games, just some news and kind of notes surrounding them and just what to look at. And I think that these last two games have shown us a lot about this team in some ways, and that there's a lot to just kind of dive into, because I think that this is a team that, while yes, they have had a great start, this is by no means a team that is foolproof, right? Like, I think everyone knows that. But I will say that with this Padres team, that while they have had the best start that they've had, at least since I've been covering them, and probably the entire Preller era, and probably franchise history, and probably, frankly, this division history of the last few years, like, they've just started off so great, right? I just mentioned in the cold open that they lost their first home game of the season. The last team to have that good of a streak was the 1901 Cleveland Indians. Like, just really, really wild just start for the Padres. But I will say that this team has not nearly the level of completeness that I think we saw from last year's team. So there is, to a degree, some people, including myself, that are a little bit skeptical. Like, has this just been a really awesome, hot start, or is there something else to dive into here? So we're going to be talking about that, guys. But first, let me just say, last night's game, the Padres drop it 2-1. Like I said, first home loss of the season. And what's funny is, like, the best things about the Padres still stood tall, right? The Padres' defense, specifically their pitching, on the run prevention side of things. Their defense, not as much. We had a little bit of an error from Luis Arraez in this one, not able to, pick up the ball on a bunt single from Pete Kerr Armstrong. They end up scoring, I'm pretty sure, in that inning. But all in all, it was still a really great showing by the team. But we got to talk about Randy Vazquez in this one first of all. 5 innings, 1 earned run only on 7 hits, 2 walks, and 2 Ks. Now, here's the thing with Randy Vazquez. He's out of the cutter this year, and I think that has made his life a lot easier. He still ranks up there in the 83rd percentile in hard hit rate. Like, he is not giving up that much contact, right? His cutter's been pretty solid. He generated 4 whiffs on it last night, generated a couple on his sweeper as well. Those are like decent pitches, decent major league pitches. The problem is after that with the 4-seam fastball. That one's not very good. The curveball, actually, opponents haven't had in 10 at-bats this year a single hit against it. So, like, that's pretty cool, right? So the curveball has been pretty good. He's shown some improvement. However, I do think that the positives sort of end there, because when you're a guy that's not striking out literally anybody, and you're a guy that, yes, you finally contain the walks a little bit, like, I just question it. And not to mention, he's also not generating a high ground ball rate, right? This is a guy who's basically just been generating soft contact that does go in the air, and it happens to go to some of our outfielders, right? There was a couple more hard hits last night, nothing crazy, but to me, a guy that's not throwing super hard, his expected ERA is at 5.72 for a reason. I don't know when it's going to happen, but unless I see something change significantly from Randy Vazquez, this is just a nice little run from a guy that, like I said, I think is a high upside 5 in a rotation, right? Potentially, and a lower tier kind of 4-starter. Like, I'm just not seeing anything giant. He's clearly been better this year. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, the addition of the cutter really has changed things, especially against lefties. But I am not seeing anything to suggest that this guy that we found some hidden gem and this is going to be the future for the Padres and it's going to help carry our rotation. They still really do need Yu Darvish back. And with the announcement that Matt Waldron's heading to the 60-day IL, there are some concerns that I have about this team's pitching staff going forward. Not giant concerns, but a little bit of a concern, right? This guy's got a 1.74 ERA and an expected ERA of 5.72. Like, something's going to happen in bat at some point, at least from what I'm seeing, because of the lack of a ground ball rate, the lack of a strikeout rate or whiff rate, and just everything seemingly going a little bit down. It's just not a good recipe for a guy having a sub 2 ERA and frankly having a sub 4 ERA. Like, at some point it's going to rocket up. That's what I am detecting. But otherwise, let me tell you, pitching was still very good. I will say, though, Manny Machado, the lone source of Padres runs last night, which was in some ways expected that the Padres were going to score a lot of runs, because Shoto Imanaga was great for the Cubs last night. And he wasn't as good, though, as he was the first time. The Padres actually did get him out of the game faster, which was going to be the key if they were going to win this game. Which, personally, I didn't say this on the show. I didn't even post it on Twitter because people get mad. I didn't think they were going to win this game. I'm just a believer. At some point, you're going to lose. And with Randy up there and then Shoto Imanaga as your opponent, I didn't see it. But what's crazy is they actually got to him pretty early. Like, he had to leave the game in this one pretty early compared to last time. That was the issue, is that the Padres couldn't get into that Cubs bullpen. At least not immediately. This time, 5 innings, 0 earned runs. He had 1 run allowed, 0 earned, 3 walks, and 7 Ks. And the reason it wasn't exactly earned is because of a lot of ridiculousness, right? Just exceptional stuff. Manny Machado in his at-bat, he fouls off like a bajillion pitches, and then he hits 2 pop-ups that the Cubs defensive players drop, and then one of them right behind home plate, one of them in right field. Kyle Tucker not showing some good defense in last night's game. And then he hits a moonshot, which is great. Look, we love Manny Machado. It was extremely well hard hit. Like, it wasn't a lucky hit in that regard, but it's very funny that the Padres just got the ultimate luck of 2 drops by the Cubs outfielders and defenders, right? Like, just really ridiculous. But that is the lone source of offense, unfortunately. Second hardest hit ball of the night, number 1 being Kyle Tucker's single. But look, Manny Machado, very quietly, been so good again. Very quietly, he's been great. Has been showing off the leather as well. I love what I'm seeing from Manny. I just feel like last year, and even in 2023, we can explain a lot of it with that injury and him recovering from all the surgery and whatnot. So he just looks great. So love to see that from Manny. Shockingly, only his 2nd home run of the year. It feels like he's been due for more than that, because he's still hitting the ball pretty hard. Specifically, he's in the 91st percentile of hard hit rate, 55.6%, which is a huge jump from the 48% last year. So I imagine that that's going to go down a little bit, but he's still hitting the ball hard. He's walking at a much higher rate, which I think has been great, right? This has been one of the concerns with Manny Machado for at least him staying at star level. I still think he's going to be a good player, don't get me wrong, but him still staying at star level, one of my concerns was the walk rate. But he has been drawing walks this year. He hasn't been as crazy aggressive, even though low and outside he does struggle with. He has been chasing more, so I expect some of these stats to go down. Otherwise, I haven't seen anything freaky from Manny Machado. Really cool season start for him. But other than that, Padres bullpen, as AJ Casavel says, by the way, the runs scored by the Cubs in this game, which, by the way, happened in the top of the 6th inning, were the first time this year that a Padres reliever relinquished a lead. And all it took was AJ Mortejon entering in a 1st and 3rd none-out situation and limiting the damage to 1 run, right? So it doesn't even get charged to him. It's actually charged to Randy Vazquez, who gets taken out of the game after walking some, allowing for 1st and 3rd situation. So again, AJ Mortejon, great. I'm not blaming him for that. The fact that they got out of that inning, given the weirdness, is awesome. Absolutely love it from the Padres. And not to mention the little bit of a blip of a mistake from Arise over at first base, just kind of fumbling the ball as he came in on the Peter Crow Armstrong bunt. So whatever, we love it. And not to mention the other run that ends up being the breaker of the game, because this game ended up going to extra innings. First time the Padres went into a bottom of the 9th at Petco all year. Nico Hoerner hits a triple, allowing Dansby Swanson to score. Yes, it was a triple. That's not great. Nico Hoerner, solid player in baseball, don't get me wrong, more known for his glove. And some people, the mean people, will be like, classic Yuki, messed up. It was a runner on second. And then what did he do right after that? He still shut things down. He got a couple strikeouts in this one. Like, I'm just not freaking out. Literally, he got a couple, 2 strikeouts in this one. He gave up 1 hit. So I'm not blaming Yuki Matsui whatsoever. I don't care if it was a little bit like classic Yuki and high leverage situations. Bottom line is the Padres did not score. You got into this Cubs bullpen late, and they did not put the bat to the ball nearly as much as they should have. Not a great game from this offense. Tatis goes 1 for 4. Manny Machado had the 1 home run, and that's it. Basically no multi-hit games. Xander Bogaerts 0 for 4 in this one. That was rough. Really bad game for Bogaerts. He also had a little bit of a mistake at second base. I would argue it was more on Jeremiah Estrada not making a great throw, but maybe he could have had it, prevented it from going into the outfield. But nonetheless, not the best that I've ever seen from the Padres offense, but they were due, one could say. So that's the positive, is they were due to lose a game. It happens. We're fine. But we got more to talk about, guys, including Dylan Cease's start on Tuesday and some other notes about the Padres going forward. So don't go anywhere. We got to talk about one of our sponsors. And one of our sponsors today, it is the phenomenal, the pizzazz, I don't know, I'm trying to use P words because I'm talking about Prize Picks, ladies and gentlemen. That's right, you remember Prize Picks? We love Prize Picks on this podcast. It's a goody, goody, goody. Because with baseball and hockey playoffs heating up, there's no better way to turn basketball and hockey playoffs heating up. We're not there just yet for baseball. Prize Picks, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy. With Prize Picks, you simply pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and you're in. You can even combine across sports, which is awesome. If you're a sports nut like myself who pays attention to every league, basketball, hockey, baseball, and more, for your chance to win up to 2,000 times your catch. You know what? Luka Doncic, feeling good about him in his first playoff game with the Lakers? Oh, daddy, I might be feeling good. Connor McDavid for more than 1 goal. Austin Matthews for more than 5 shots on goal. Not even have to get a goal, just 5 shots on goal. What I love is how easy it is, though, no matter what you pick, to set up your lineup up in under 60 seconds. Prize Picks even runs cool promos like Taco Tuesday, where they discount player projections up to 25% for even more value. The payouts are safe, fast, and secure. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. And just like that, everybody, we are back thriving and vibing into this segment of this podcast, talking about an old game, but nonetheless a good game. And for my everydayers, just a reminder, go check me out on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. It's only Wednesday, right? When everyone's listening to this, hopefully. But still, we're going to be closing in on that mailbag episode for Monday, so feel free to reach out and especially leave comments on YouTube. I tend to read from those a lot. You can do that as well. But let's talk about Monday's game, in which the Padres won in fantastic fashion, 10-4 in this one. Let's first talk about Dylan Cease, because I don't think, based on what I'm seeing, I think there's just more frustrations with Dylan Cease rather than actual panic with Dylan Cease. But if there are people panicking about Dylan Cease, let's just talk about that really quick, right? And he wasn't bad in this game, but considering that he actually hadn't given up a run in his last 3 starts against the Cubs, maybe that we were expecting a little bit more, or at least some people were. He goes 5 2/3 in this one, giving up 2 earned runs, 3 runs, but only 2 earned, on 1 walk and 6 Ks. Also gave up 7 hits, by the way. I phrased that wrong. So gave up 7 hits, allowing 2 earned runs. But got 6 Ks, only 1 walk. That's what I like. 6 Ks, only 1 walk. And again, he does give up the big hit in this one, right? Michael Busch gets a homer in the top of the 4th. And prior to that, Cease was dealing. And we've seen that throughout this year. I think that's been a little bit concerning, tiny bit concerning. It's just that we've seen a lot of moments where Dylan Cease looks like he's going to give us that 6.2 inning game where he strikes out 10, only gives up 4 hits, right? Like, we haven't gotten that this yet, and his ERA is in the 6s, right? He just has not been consistent, and he hasn't gone deep into games in some cases. The Oakland start was really bad. The start against who was it that he pitched against? I'm forgetting, actually. I forgot. Who was Dylan Cease pitched against? The start against the Athletics wasn't very good, right? With Oakland. The start against the Braves wasn't all that amazing. But to me, I don't know. I just think that this is something that Dylan Cease has sometimes, right? Like, yes, this is the worst kind of month he's had as a Padre, I think, so far, right? Like, he's only been here for a year, but this is probably his worst month. And given that he's going into a contract year, some people may be frustrated. But to me, I just think that this is something that happens with Cease sometimes. One of the things I saw, though, was that he threw more fastballs and sliders in Monday's game, right? 45 fastballs, 33 sliders, and then 10 knuckle curves, right? He went back to the usual pitch mix that he has gone with for the last several years, right? Like, that's what he's done. He kind of dropped entirely the changeup. At only 3 times he threw that thing. It wasn't working all that great for him, the changeup. But I do think it is notable to say that, okay, doesn't look like he'll be able to develop a third pitch. This is something we talked about in this podcast a couple weeks ago, which was, given that it's his free agent year, is he going to want to be experimenting with stuff right now? I don't know, right? And instead, he went back to his old reliable, and he got a lot of whiffs off of his slider and fastball, 12 in total from both pitches. So, that was good. He looked pretty good. He just gave up the one really bad hit to Michael Busch. I'm not panicking. And I actually did a little bit of a TikTok and then a YouTube short about this that nobody watched for some reason. I talked about this a little bit, that this is just the kind of pitcher that Dylan Cease is, right? This is a guy who, yes, I understand he finished top 5 in Cy Young last year, but his ERA can fluctuate. And the reason is because he gives up hard contact and he doesn't generate that consistent, that high of a ground ball rate. So there are just going to be starts where his ERA can get up there. But what he's going to do is he's going to provide strikeouts. He hasn't had a strikeout rate lower than 27%. 27% since he's been, I think it's since 2021. So basically since he started to break out, right? And also, he's pitched at least 165 innings. Both of those stats, the strikeout rate, top 5 among starting pitchers since 2021. And then the innings, top 7 among pitchers since 2021. He's just a guy that, to me, you love him as a number 2, and you're like, okay, he's good as your number 1. Right? He's in terms of winning a World Series, right? Overall, I still consider this guy like an ace tier pitcher, but he shouldn't be viewed as this guy who, in my opinion, is like a Cy Young guy. I actually went on Sirius XM a few weeks back and talked about this guy was like, hey, should I put in anything for Dylan Cease Cy Young? And I was like, it's possible that he could go out and have that perfect season. One of the things that we saw is if he was able to get back to what he had in that 2023 season, where he was just getting a lot better movement on his pitches. 2022 season, where his slider was just basically untouchable and his fastball had a little bit more rise against compared to other pitchers, right? His fastball just rose and was just really, really hard to hit, and then the slider was phenomenal. And combine his 2022 season with the fact that he figured out how to walk less people this past year with Ruben Niebla's tutelage. I understand some people being high on him, but overall, I just don't see this guy as a DeGrom. He's going to have some bad stretches. He's going to have some bad months, but overall, it's just very hard to find that, right? Once you take a step back and you stop looking at the little things and being like, damn, Dylan, you had one of those starts where you went 4 innings, gave up 6 runs, struck out 6, and it's really frustrating. But look at the rest of Major League Baseball and you take his whole career sampling size, like I just did with the innings and the strikeout rate since 2021. There's very few like him, which is why he's going to get paid $200 million this offseason, barring anything, barring any catastrophe, right? And again, I'm just not freaking out. The fastball velo is still there, right? He hasn't lost the velocity all that much. He just hasn't quite had his best start yet, but I'm not freaking out, right? There's nothing that I've seen that suggests, oh no, we're doomed. You know what I mean? He's just having a little bit of a rough start, and considering he was tinkering with some pitches, that might be the main thing, right? So no concerns about Dylan Cease. As long as your concerns aren't, wow, I think this guy's going to have a 2.2 ERA this year. What's going on? As long as it's not that, he should be fine. Then, in terms of the rest of the team, Padres offense goes absolutely ham in this one. Tatis, bottom of the 3rd inning, hits a home run in this one, and then they're down 3-1 for most of the game. And guess what? It basically stays that way because of the bullpen. Jose Iglesias, he gets a single. Jason Hayward, he drives in a couple runs. Gavin Sheets, he has a big, big moment here in this game at the DH spot. He goes 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs in this one. Tatis also hits another home run that basically puts the game away in the bottom of the 8th inning, making it 8-4. And then even Luis Ariz got in on a pitch that actually was closer to hitting him than it was on the plate for a home run. Just basically an offensive palooza. But more importantly, I want to look at the bullpen and talk about it again. Alec Jacob only gets 1 out, whatever, fine. But Adrian Morejon, he comes in, keeps the lead. Jason Adam, he comes in, does end up giving up a run. Very rare. right? Like very rare, but did not give up the lead as we talked about in the first segment. And then Wandy Peralta goes in this one, getting the game locked down. They didn't end up having to use Robert Suarez. They ended up using him last night. By the way, got hit a little bit hard, but whatever, it happens. This Padres bullpen, man, like it's just crazy. It's just crazy. And you know what's really funny? Wandy Peralta. I want to mention him real quick. Having a little bit of a bounce back season. We talked about this in the offseason a little bit, that I thought Wandy was like the only one in this bullpen that was like, I don't know exactly about him, because he has been a little bit weird throughout his career. He, at least according to Baseball Savant, has been awesome so far, right? He is generating one of the best ground ball rates in all of baseball at 85%. This guy is not giving up basically any hard contact. He's in the 73rd percentile of hard hit rate, 87th percentile in barrel rate, and he's getting a lot of ground balls. And by the way, he's getting opponents to chase, right? 43% chase rate? Like, what? 37% whiff rate? I don't know exactly what's been going on with Wandy Peralta, but maybe the talent has been there this whole time, right? His changeup has been working really, really well. His four-seamer has been, not used nearly as much because he doesn't have necessarily the movement, I think, on that pitch to compete at the high leverage level. But for a guy that's been a low leverage reliever, for him to even be better this year is awesome. And I will say that in fairness, he has had some good seasons, right? With the Yankees back in 22, he had a 2.72 ERA. And then the year after, a 2.83. So it's not shocking that he's good. I just think it shows you that this bullpen is like, there's basically no one I have a problem with. Yes, Adrian Monahan, his body language makes you nervous in high leverage situations. It looks like he starts to sweat like actual buckets. It's like ridiculous. But guess what? His numbers are still great. His stuff is amazing. If you want to look at Stuff Plus, that metric, it is amazing. Robert Suarez, his changeup this year, while I am still a little bit worried that we could see a little bit of a regression, even if it happens, I've said this 100 times, even if he does regress, he's still going to be a good pitcher. I'm not worried about that. He's just attacking the strike zone, and the improved changeup has been awesome, right? Yuki Matsui finally gave up a run, but it was in extras with a man on second to Nico Horner. Like, it happens, whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like, you literally had that situation, and the fact that he didn't let another run score shows you he was great. And then you have Jeremiah Estrada. Great moment for him last night when he gets the strikeouts after making a couple mistakes. By the way, with that throw to second base that could have been the game, or I'm sorry, the inning-ending double play, messes it up to Bogaerts. Maybe Bogaerts could have caught it, prevented the guy from going to third, but whatever. And what does he do? He gets the next strikeouts, and then he's pumping his chest up. He looks amazing. Jason Adam looks amazing. There's just... and to think that they're getting back Brian Hoeing and soon to be Sean Reynolds, who Ruben Niebla himself confirmed canonically, right? This is canon that he loves Mr. Sean Reynolds. I think that this bullpen, I just wouldn't be shocked if it stays this way for the rest of the year. I am a little bit worried about the starting pitching, and if the starting pitching, like my expectations that Randy Vazquez is going to have a real, come back down to earth, oh my God, bad start. And if we don't know exactly what we're getting out of Kyle Hart, and we don't know when Yu Darvish is coming back healthy, yes, I can worry that maybe the bullpen might be stressed and used a little bit too much to the point where you worry about it. But overall, I just think that the talent's awesome, and I'm excited, man. I can't believe how good this bullpen is. And Tatis, 2 home runs. I mean, guys, he looks freaking ridiculous. He's had some of his best stretches of his entire career. His WOBA, his expected WOBA was at like 500 at one point. He just looks absolutely ridiculous, and he was the thing we talked about before the season where, yes, you lost Profar, yes, you lost Solano, yes, you lost Higashioka, yes, you're worried about some other players maybe aging, like Manny Machado and whatnot. We don't know what we're going to get out of Xander Bogaerts, but Tatis was the case, and his case was, if this guy goes out and performs at levels he has before, which he is very capable of, it could be possible that the bottom of this lineup, or at least the depth of this lineup, can be almost entirely ameliorated by the fact that Tatis could just have a Ronald Acuna, MVP type season, just carry the offense. And that's what's happening so far, and I love it. But folks, we're not done with today's episode in terms of some other things that I'm looking at for the Padres going forward, and possibly not some great things. Might be a little bit disappointing for you guys. You'll just have to see in a second. But first, got to talk about one of our sponsors. And that sponsor is the legendary ones, the sensational ones. I love introducing everybody like this, but it is true in the case of our friends over at Game Time, because let me tell you, there's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. I'll be checking out a game live next month in San Diego, Petco. That's right. I'm going to be there, guys. Crazy breaking news. The crack of the bat, the roar of the crowd that I imagine will be there. and the smell of that ballpark food. Oh, I know. I want to try that vanilla bread pudding nonsense that they got going on there and all the tacos and whatever they got at Petco. And Game Time makes it easier to get the tickets for those experiences with last minute deals, all in pricing, and the lowest prices guaranteed. Game Time takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets. Plus, ticket prices drop as Game Time gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. And Game Time, it's the official ticketing partner of Locked On. And as the Padres come up, like I said, I'll actually be going for the Seattle game, it looks like, next month. I can count on them to help grab tickets that meet my needs. It's great. If you have a spontaneous game night, you know what I mean? If the prices actually can go down closer to the game you have little views of the seats before you buy them. It's great. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed with Game Time. And just like that, everybody, we are thriving and vibing into the final segment. Let me tell you, we've been running a little bit long on this one, so that's why we're going to speed things up. But I want to talk about some potential concerns. Let's just talk very loosely about the Padres and the current state of the team, where they stand, and how I think that while it has been fun, there still are some concerns. First of all, there's a concern just in general with how good this division has been, right? The Padres are first in the National League West at 14 wins, but the Dodgers are still right there, and the Giants have been very, very good. And the D-backs are 10-7. They're going to be there too, right? It's basically just the Rockies. This is looking like the best division in baseball. That's not bias or hyperbole. I think that that's what's going to happen. So as a result, the line of mistakes, right? The overall sort of what will distinguish first place and second place, or second place and third place, is not going to be all that much, right? It's going to be a razor thin line. And for me, what I've seen so far from this Padres team is that there's a couple things. First of all, as we have talked about a lot, and what we talked about last season, basically all year, was this: when it comes to performing in the clutch, things tend to vacillate. And what I mean by vacillate, in the smaller sense that you're not going to be obscenely clutch one year and obscenely clutch the next year. You're also, likewise, in the benefit, not going to be super choke job artists and then super choke job artists a second year in a row. This was the case I had for the team last year. Now, you look at the team. What did they do? They were about 20% better than the second best team in high leverage situations last year in terms of their offense. And to me, so far this year, that has kind of been a little bit of the story. They've gotten hits when they've needed to, right? The Padres are fourth in Major League Baseball in terms of batting average when it comes in high leverage situations. They're able to get those hits. However, I will say that in terms of the overall WRC plus mark, they are 10th in Major League Baseball in high leverage situations, which tells you a couple things. Number one, they're having a regular regression to the mean, right? They're getting back to normal, right? They're saying, you know what? We were obscenely clutch last year. We're okay this year. But in general, I think what it tells you is that the Padres are getting hits with runners in scoring position, but just not enough. They aren't slugging that much. While I am optimistic that Xander Bogaerts has at least become a little bit better of a batter, it's still looking like this is a guy that is not what he was in Boston. He's not ripping nearly as much hard hit stuff as possible. I thought he was actually going to have a home run last night. He was a little bit close at one point. I thought he had it. But we still have some questions there. But at the same time, I will say no Jake Cronenworth and no Jackson Merrill is going to hurt this team's lineup. I am wondering, can they find another batter? They say the rumors, the possibility that it is Gavin Sheets, right? But he is a guy who unfortunately is a platoon hitter. He only is hitting against righties for the most part because he's dreadful against lefties, and he's come up pretty big at some points. But in terms of runners in scoring position this year, that's where I'm a little bit more concerned. The Padres are 19th in WRC plus because, you know why? They're getting a lot of singles but not driving guys in. Luis Arraez, by the way, last night had the chance to potentially tie the game, did not do that. Hits a fly ball basically on the first pitch, right? So what I'm looking at from this team is, while I do believe that Tatis can carry an offense, I am still a little bit worried in terms of just some of the bottom of the lineup stuff. Now, is it any worse than other teams? No, but that's why I started off saying that it's because of the division that they are in, that these things can impact them and potentially take them out of playoff contention. We will see. But overall, I do think that there are some concerns there, right? They are regressing a little bit in terms of performing at a high level. Like, is that going to continue? I'm not sure because, again, they are missing Jake Cronenworth right now. They are missing Jackson Merrill. And I think if you bring back those guys back into the lineup, your need at other positions is a lot less. I'm still curious to see what Oscar Gonzalez does. I'm still curious to see if Elias Diaz can be that starting catcher for a whole season. Same thing for Martin Maldonado. And I'm definitely still curious to see whatever the heck they do at left field in general with Jason Hayward not performing all that great at the plate, aside from a couple moments, and then Brandon Lockridge being on the IL. You've still got Tyler Wade on this team. There's still a lot of fluff, a lot of players that are on the fringes that I'm worried about. Like, what is going to happen with the bottom of this lineup? I think Jose Iglesias has been okay this year. Right, he's got a good batting average. That's been fun, but not slugging the ball all that much. How much of the slugging and driving in runs is going to rely on Manny, Tatis, and Merrill? One of them being out right now. I don't know. I think Jake Cronenworth can be great. I really do. Luis Arraez, he has a lifetime plus average with runners in scoring position, but how many times is he going to be able to drive runs in is a good question, right? Yes, I think that there's a formula in which Tatis just gets on base, steals second, Arraez hits a single, that's a run. I get it. But overall, Arraez has been one of the worst players in baseball this year, at least if you go by wins above replacement. And again, way too early for wins above replacement, but he is sitting at a -0.2 right now. And part of that is because he's just not hitting at the level that we're hoping from him. I think he's slowly starting to get it. He did go 1 for 4 last night with a walk. That's fine. Like that's okay, right? Like we're seeing some improvement from him. But all in all, with bad defense, he needs to really start hitting a lot more to be valuable. And again, I think he will. He's got a 105 WRC plus right now. I don't think that's going to stick. I think that with the thumb injury, last year that has impacted him. But I'd like to see a little bit more soon. I'm ready for rampaging Arraez. So we'll have to see with him. But I think more than just the guys that have performed, I'm wondering what's going to happen in the future with this team. And there's a couple things I'm wondering with. First of all, the DH situation. I know everybody's been commenting. They keep talking about it. They keep saying, Javi, you were right. Our king, you're so smart. You're so handsome and all these things. I'm kidding. Nobody said that. But in terms of my complaints, Yuli Gurriel has been at the top of the list. This is a guy who just can't hit anymore. He's chasing pitches. When he does make contact, it's not hard whatsoever. In hard hit rate, he's in he is a 15% hard hit rate. Like he hasn't been good there. And yes, he's drawing a couple walks every now and then and whatnot. And he doesn't swing and miss at dumb stuff, but he's always swinging, making bad swing decisions. He's old. He's old, and I don't think he's going to be on this team for much longer. I understand that Gavin Sheets can't hit against lefties, but frankly, I am sometimes wondering, like, well, Yuli Gurriel can't hit against anybody, so what could we possibly lose? I get it. They want to have him at first base. I understand. But for me, yes, I am still wondering, like, why don't we give Eggy Rosario a shot? I understand he's more of a corner middle infielder. Like, I get that. But in general, I'm just like, I wouldn't mind having the guy who his whole career has hit well against lefties, start against lefties, and then Gavin Sheets against righties. I just think that would work. And frankly, you're telling me Eggy Rosario can't play first? Like, he can't even try? Luis Arraez is playing first some days. So, like, if they had to, and usually they don't, usually Luis Arraez is playing first, would it be that bad if you put Eggy Rosario first? I don't know. Maybe it's a disaster, and I have no idea how bad it is behind the scenes. I don't run the team. I'm not a coach. But it is still something I'm keeping an eye on. And Tirso Ornelas, other guys being tried out in left field. Is there a trade that they can make? You look at someone like Ryan Mountcastle. I don't know if the Orioles are going to be good this year. I don't know if they're going to be bad. I think they're still going to try, but they're 6-10 right now. They have no starting rotation that you feel great about, with Grayson Rodriguez being out right now, and it's not like he's a certified ace just yet either. He's looked okay. He's had his moments, but he's hurt, and we don't know when he's coming back. Their bullpen is okay, and their offense is pretty good, but they're missing Gunnar Henderson right now. I'm wondering, could we see them sell at the deadline? Ryan Mountcastle, is that a guy? He's played outfield before. He's got pop. I would much rather have that, you know what I mean, than potentially starting Yuli Gurriel every other day, right? So I think that is a possibility for the Padres, among others. Jesus Sanchez, you want to trade for him from the Marlins, might not cost anything. He could play left field. I think there's some ways for them to shore things up, but I don't think that they can get another star. That they can't do. Same goes for the rotation. I talked about this the other day on Monday with the mailbag. Don't think they can go out and get a Sandy Alcantara. So I do think that there are some concerns with this Padres team. And the other thing that I will say is with catching, the Campusano Hive is going to get another moment, right? This guy has been absolutely raking in the minor leagues so far this year. And it's a thing to point out, because I think at some point, if Elias Diaz is still hitting like this, which he's been okay, right? If the catching duo is not producing in the clutch the way that they did early on in the season, I do think at some point you could see Luis Campusano called up, maybe an injury or whatever. But this is a guy that has like a plus 1100 OPS. And fun fact, he's hit 14 balls over 105 miles per hour so far in AAA this season, which is by far the most of any player in AAA. Like, he's been raking more than he usually does. He usually does well in AAA, but now he's really, really raking. So I think we're going to get another shot from Luis Campusano. So those are just some things to follow along with the Padres in high leverage situations, the bottom of the lineup especially. Will they be able to drive in enough runs? Is the starting pitching rotation going to be okay? The Matt Waldron move to the 60-day IL, that actually really hurt. That hurt the team. That's a guy that you can throw in there if Randy eventually blows up, if you just need a spot start, that I felt kind of good about. He had some good moments last year. He had some stretches where he was really solid. So now we're starting to wonder, all right, is Kyle Hart going to be any good? We'll have to worry about that. Nick Pivetta, Dylan Cease, Michael King, I'm feeling pretty good about them. But still some rotation questions. And given the lower, let me look for the word, given the kind of, let's say, lackluster depth of the farm system, it's not something that they'll be able to address and complete fully. So it's been an amazing start, but there are still things on paper that tell me, be careful. I just don't think that this is a better team than last year's, right? With the Profar thing, with Higgy, with Donovan Solano, I just don't think it's as good of a team as last year's. And we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see. I don't know how it's all going to shake up, but overall, we'll see. Maybe Yu Darvish comes back. Maybe he can throw good innings. That's a big thing for this team now with the Matt Waldron injury. But overall, I'm basically saying, everybody, temper your expectations, but definitely don't freak out, especially after one loss against the Cubs. We're going to see how the series ends today, and hopefully it's in a W, right? Hopefully we get ourselves another series W. That would be, frankly, really awesome, I think, for this team. To be able to do it against a team that has one of the best offenses in baseball so far, I think it would be great. It's Nick Pivetta versus Matthew Boyd. Pivetta, which version of him do we get? We've only got 3 so far. 2 of them we liked, 1 of them not so much, and it was against the Cubs. So what do we get from him is going to be a big, big thing to watch for. But whatever happens, guys, remember to take your time to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts from. Go follow me on Twitter/X and Blue Sky at Javipeno, JAVIIPENO. We've got some special episodes next couple days. Tomorrow, Mr. Stephen Woods from Ben and Woods. You guys might be familiar with the show over in San Diego, Radio Talk, whatnot. He's coming on the show to talk about the state of the Padres, what it's been like watching this team so far, and then get a little bit biased and start Dodger hating maybe. And then Friday, going to be doing a crossover with Locked On Astros to preview this weekend series. So lots of good stuff still coming your way. So stay tuned. But until next time, stay safe. And of course, stay faithful. My Friar Faithful homies. Take care.